Hey, true believers, I am John in real life, and I'm in the Endgame now. This is our last Marvel Avengers Endgame countdown video. The LA premiere is tonight as I record this video. It's going to be happening in, actually I think it's happening right now as we speak. I believe there's actually, the stars and cast are walking the red carpet. They're about to show the first showing in the US. So this is probably the last time I'm going to be on the internet for a week because I'm not getting anything spoiled for me. But the last 11 years, Marvel has done something incredible. They've created 11 years worth of films, 22 different films that have one large, overarching, intertwining story. And as much credit as I want to give them, it's not exactly an original story. It's called the Infinity Saga, and it's actually based on an old comic story from the 90s called the Infinity Gauntlet. And while they've gotten a lot of things dead on perfect in the films, there are still a few differences, and I'm going to talk about them in this video, and maybe, just maybe, some of the differences that we see in the comics might just happen on the film when we watch Avengers Endgame. And I'm going to start with the biggest difference. This obviously won't happen because it would have already. When we start in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos is hunting for the Infinity Stones. He's got the gauntlet, and he's in search of the stones. But in the beginning of Infinity Gauntlet, he's already got them. He's not hunting across the galaxy. He's just got them on his gauntlet already. And his motivation is to win the love of his crush, I guess you could say, Mistress Death. In the Marvel Comics universe, Death is personified as a woman, and Thanos is head over heels in love with her. And he, to appease her, kills half the life in the universe, basically giving her half the souls in the universe. And she doesn't reciprocate his love. She doesn't really care or blink, and it drives him insane to be ignored. And I'm not going to go super in-depth because there's a lot of characters I'd have to explain and introduce if you're not super familiar with the comics. So I'll just give you this sort of Cliff Notes version. In the end, the heroes team up to try to defeat him, and it takes not his daughter, but his granddaughter, Nebula, to take the gauntlet from him and undo everything he's done. Problem is, Nebula is a little crazy since she was dead and Thanos brought her back from the dead, and another sort of flex to impress Death. And when you get brought back from the dead, it could drive you a little crazy. So they have to get the gauntlet away from Nebula now because she's crazy and she can't handle this power. Well, Nebula survived the snap in Infinity War. Could she get the gauntlet from Thanos in Endgame? Maybe. I don't think it's out of the question at all. They've certainly done a great job of building her arc and making you want to see her beat Thanos. She resents him from tearing her apart and putting her back together, making her more of a machine and more of a monster than a person, and never really caring about her as a daughter. I mean, there was a scene in Endgame where she said, "You should have killed me," and Thanos said it would have been a waste of parts. That is just cold-hearted to say to someone, especially someone who's supposed to be your daughter. Yeah, I would be surprised at all if Marvel doesn't follow the suit of the comics and have Nebula take the gauntlet and use it against Thanos. I think it'd be great. But in the comics, the Avengers had to stop Nebula because now she's a tyrant with a lot of power as well. And that is where I think the MCU could introduce a very, very cool, very powerful new character. Well, not really new. In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the Guardians are working with the Sovereign race. They're the gold, shiny people that they all look the same pretty much. And at the end of the film, in the post-credits scene, we see a big sort of cocoon. And the leader of the Sovereign, Aisha, says, "I think I'll name him Adam." Well, in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, there's a character who appears out of a cocoon who is gold, and his name is Adam Warlock. He basically comes from the Soul Stone, and it's a whole convoluted story. But the gist is he's amazing. He's absolutely awesome. And he takes the Infinity Gauntlet from Nebula and puts it in what we assume is a safe place. There's a ridiculous amount of sequels to this story that we're not going to cover all right now. But Adam Warlock sort of exists in the MCU, and we could see him actually come into play and introduce a new character who's so powerful and so cool that he can take on Thanos pretty much by himself. The end of Infinity Gauntlet actually shows the heroes asking Thanos for help to beat Nebula because she becomes so powerful they can't do it alone. The most powerful celestial heroes, the Silver Surfer, Galactus, none of them stand a chance against the Infinity Gauntlet. It's just such a powerful weapon that the Avengers team up with Thanos and Adam Warlock to stop Nebula and get the gauntlet. And then we see the ending of Infinity War, where he hangs his armor on the Scarecrow and sits on his farm and just kind of smiles because his job is complete. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Marvel doesn't throw us this curveball, introduce Adam Warlock, give Nebula this power, and maybe, just maybe, Thanos isn't the big bad guy at the end of this movie. That said, that covering the source material of Infinity War, which, by the way, if you guys haven't checked this out, this book is just all 6 issues of the story in one. I got it from Barnes & Noble. It was $25. It's worth picking up and checking out. The art style is beautiful, and it's one of the most iconic Marvel stories of all time. I highly recommend checking it out. That said, let's talk about some fan theories, because these are really fun, and when they're even close to accurate, it's fun to look back and go, wow, that guy almost got it right. That's crazy. So fan theories for Endgame have been coming out since before Infinity War came out. Because originally Marvel introduced these as Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, and due to some, how do I say this? They rearranged a few different titles, moved some things around, and so the Infinity War Part 2 got dropped and changed into Avengers Endgame. And so some of the most popular fan theories. Some I'm a big fan of. Like there's one, probably the most popular, says that the Avengers are going to be time traveling in this movie. The very first set pictures leaked from Endgame showed Captain America in his first Avengers movie costume. He hasn't worn that since the first Avengers movie, so a lot of people were saying, why would Cap go back to that costume? Everything he's had since then has been an upgrade, like looks-wise and armor-wise. Why would he go backwards? Well, what if he traveled back in time to the Battle of New York? What if he traveled back to the events of the first Avengers movie? Well, why would he do that? Well, Loki had the Tesseract. Inside the Tesseract was an Infinity Stone. What if they went ahead and just grabbed that bad boy for themselves and never let Thanos get it? While they're at it, why don't you grab Loki and say, hey, where's Thanos? Let's go kick his butt before he comes here and destroys half the life in the universe. That could explain the matching suits that we see in the trailer. Maybe there's some kind of time travel suits. I don't know. This is just a fan theory, but it makes a lot of sense. And it does tie up a lot of loose ends and answers a lot of questions that are raised by the trailers. Another fan theory says that Captain America's gonna die. Not a fan of this theory. Captain America's my favorite hero. I love the guy. I followed his story arc from the first Avenger through to Winter Soldier, through to Civil War, to Infinity War. Great character, great story arc, and a lot of people think this might be the end of the line for him. He's lost Falcon, he's lost Bucky, he's lost Peggy Carter. He really doesn't have much else left to lose. Maybe he loses his own life, but in return, maybe he saves everyone that he lost. That would be a pretty fitting ending for our dear Captain. Another theory, this is one of my favorites, says that maybe the Avengers just beat Thanos in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and the rest of the movie is spent with them trying to stop, Nova or Nebula or any other cosmic hero. What if Thanos really isn't as bad as we think he is? What if he just got lucky, snapped his fingers, killed half the Avengers, and then the Avengers go, yeah, no, and just beat him and take everything back? There are so many fan theories. Go to Reddit. Go to, any blog or on Tumblr. Go anywhere on the internet, and there's a ton of fan theories. There's YouTube videos out there. People are talking about this movie, and they have ideas and theories and what they want to see happen, what they think could happen. Nobody knows for sure. But what we do know is this very week, Avengers Endgame comes out. All of our questions are going to be answered. We have tickets. We're going to be going on Sunday. We'll be going live on social media after. We won't be spoiling it on social media. Don't worry. We're not those people. But we'll be giving you guys our immediate reaction, saying, wow, that was amazing, or hey, I thought it'd be better. It's going to be amazing. But something I think is getting lost on people here. This movie has been building for 11 years. 11 years ago. Think about how much different the world was. We hadn't quite had our economy crash here in the US 11 years ago when Iron Man 1 first came out. Barack Obama hadn't become president yet. It was still George W. Bush in office when Iron Man came out. This movie has been building for a long time. the world has changed since the MCU started, and it's all culminating this week. That's crazy, guys. And it all started right here in the pages of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. Do yourselves a favor. You still have the rest of the week before the film comes out. Read this. It's available on Kindle. It's available in paperback. If you've got the cash to spend, go out and buy the individual issues. It'll appreciate in value and you'll get your money back in no time. This story is incredible. The story arc is amazing. The characters and the art style are beautiful. And it's what we've been looking at for the last 11 years. And the other point I want to make is just because it's the Endgame, just because it's the end of the Infinity Saga doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of our heroes. You know, Spider-Man has a new movie coming out in May, June, somewhere in there, sometime this summer. That's another part of the MCU. It's been announced previously at shareholder meetings and D23 that Black Panther 2 is in the works. If you watch Captain Marvel, there's plenty of room to expand her universe. Just because the Thanos and the Infinity Saga is over doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end of the MCU. So if you're a fan, don't fret. This isn't really the end, just the end of chapter 1. It's exciting. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to take in. But hopefully I'll see you guys at the movies or at the comic shop. Until then, we'll see you real soon in real life.